course, in our little classroom here, we don't have moving lights, so you're going to be achieving it all with static, conventional lights. So you'll really get the idea of what cueing and movement is. Okay? So that covers the last one there. Let me just double check something. All right. So that kind of covers that. The next thing I kind of want to talk about is a little bit about what the lighting designer does and kind of our process to achieve a lighting design and what we go through. So there's a couple of things there. Let me get rid of a few things. Kind of want to talk you through the whole process. Okay, so this is kind of the job or the process of being a lighting designer on a project. First thing you're going to do is you're going to acquire information about the project. Okay, and that's going to be a lot of things, depending on your project. So in most of our discussions in here, we're going to be talking about theatrical projects. But if you're doing things like dance, or you're doing something architectural, or you're doing all those different kinds of projects that you might do, what kind of information you gather can vary a little bit. So things that you would look for in theater, like you would want to know, what's your space? What kind of power do you have to power your lights? So these are questions that you would look into. What kind of equipment do you have? What kind of people do you have helping you?
Yeah, what kind of crew do you have?
What kind of crew do you have? Do you have any crew? Are you all by yourself? Like, what are the parameters of your project? And in theater, is it in repertory, or what we call rep? Like, are you accommodating other shows besides your own? So again, repertory or rep is something that we use quite commonly in theater. When we refer to a rep plot, that means a plot that we use for a lot of different shows. It's kind of a multi-purpose plot. Like usually what we have hanging in this space and the other space are sort of a basic plot that we adapt for each show, because we also have to be able to accommodate different special events and things that go on. So we try to have a few basic things that are a rep plot or a repertory plot. All right. Any questions about that? Repertory. Like, does it accommodate other shows? Like, do you have to have, are there other shows? Like, I have a show in a small space that I'm dealing with this week, and we just had a meeting yesterday. One of the first questions I have, because they send us a little schedule of conflicts for the space, and it has other shows and rehearsals on it, my first question is, do I need to make sure that I leave some lights alone for them? Can I not touch certain things? Do I have to have certain things in the air for their classes or for their stand-up comedy shows here? That kind of thing. And then get those answers. That's part of what you need to do, is kind of figure out what you've got. And then I walked around the space, and because they didn't have an inventory, one of the things you guys are going to want to know about is an inventory. So under finding out what the equipment is, we call that an inventory. The inventory is the list of equipment available in the space. So as part of my meeting yesterday, I had to walk around the theater and write down what equipment they had, because they didn't have an inventory readily available for me. I've got to figure out what tools I have in my toolbox. It's almost like if you're a painter, you got to figure out what paint brushes you have, right? Because different edge brushes give you different kind of brush strokes. Sort of the same thing in theater. Different kinds of lighting instruments give you different kind of brush strokes to paint the stage. So you've got to figure out what you have to work with. Okay? The second thing you do is usually the artistic part of it, but this is, to me, this is kind of interchangeable with the first one. Because sometimes what I do is I read the script first for a play, and then I have a meeting where I can find out all my technical information. So these really are kind of interchangeable. So with a play, you would read the play, right? At least 2 times. I have worked with designers who don't read the plays, and you can get away with that some of the time. But there are directors out there who are very cerebral, and they want to talk about the meaning of the play and the symbolism of the play, and they really kind of want to delve into those things. And if you can at least gloss over the surface of those things with them, it's kind of a losing cause. You're probably not going to get rehired by them. So it's always good to be prepared. Read the play. And if you're doing another type of project, then doing some research on what the dance piece is. If it's a dance, like if they can show you a rehearsal, you go see the dance piece. If you're doing an architectural project, go see the building or find pictures of the building. So part of this would be, if it's not reading the play because you're not doing a theatrical piece, the artistic part of it would be doing research on what you're lighting. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, as part of reading the play, yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So that's what you're saying also has to do with the space that you have to do whatever, the play may be.
Yeah.
So it has to do with the space, the kind of the theater that you are getting into.
Exactly. Exactly. So one of the things that's kind of nice for me to do is I'll usually read the play once, go to the meeting, or do a site visit so I can see the theater space unless I already know it. Some theaters